Hello. Thank you so much for having me here, Victoria. It is truly an honor, and I'm really excited to chat with you and learn more about you and learn more about where you're coming from, but also hopefully share some things that I've learned along the way. In voiceover and in most fields, it is a constantly learning endeavor. We're always learning, we're always growing, we're always adapting to what's happening in the marketplace. So I like having these conversations because it also just helps me to think about things more on a more global scale and just a more macro level. And I guess to tell you something more about me, I am based in the US. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. So that is like, if you look at the map of the United States, it's basically about as center as you could possibly be on the big continental US of the lower 48 states, as we call it. So I'm really excited, and yeah. So let's dive in. Let's do it.
Right. All right. Thank you once again. Okay. So let's go straight into the questions. So the first question for you, John. Whew, for voice talents who want to work globally, what's the biggest misunderstanding or misconceptions we have about the global voiceover market? Let me read again. For voice talents who want to work globally, what's that biggest misunderstanding or misconception we have about the global voiceover market?
That's a great question, and there's a lot of different ways to look at it. I'll look at it from a couple different perspectives, but I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is that people feel like they don't. How do I say it? There's a lot of imposter syndrome that exists within voice actors. So basically feeling like, what do I have to offer that is different from what already exists in that marketplace? And so I feel like a lot of voice actors hold themselves back by feeling afraid to reach out to potential clients who exist in not only other countries, but across the globe and other continents. And so I think that one of the misconceptions is just the fact that people feel like, what do I have to offer? What's different about me that would actually bring something of value there? Or my accent is so different from what exists there. How could I actually be of service over there? And I think that's limiting yourself and not giving yourself a chance to really expand your business in a way into fun areas that you maybe didn't realize existed before. And then the second thing, so that's more of like a kind of a big picture viewpoint. But another thing I think a lot of voice actors, especially voice actors early on in their career, a misconception is that you need to live in that market, or you need to live in that time zone or in that country to do work in that country. And to be honest with you, most clients don't really care where you are. There could be some, differences in terms of, legally who can work within what country, or who companies can hire. There might be some red tape that you have to work around, or some rules and regulations. But for the most part, clients don't care where you are. What they care about is you getting an authentic read for their market, for their project. And so it doesn't matter where you live. Whenever I have remote sessions, it's almost like a throwaway question when I'm with the client, where they say, by the way, where are you located? That's more of like oh, by the way, let's do small talk and let's talk about it. It's not like, where are you located? I really want to know where you're located because that's, who I want to work with. They're just trying to get to know you. And the expectation is that you're not where they are. And so that, I would say, is a misconception, especially for voice actors who are pushing into voiceover work that are early in their career, seeing as though, if I don't live there, I can't work there. That's not who clients want to hire. And I think that's a misconception. It's not true.
If I don't live there, I don't want to work there. Or yeah,
Yeah.
that's very, very true. And so, John, as you can hear, you can work with clients anywhere. Your location is not a barrier. You can work with clients from anywhere around the world. We all say, I'm a global talent, but you're not putting yourself out there. You're not bold. Be bold. That's what I tell my students. Be bold. It starts with your mindset. You don't just you're not limited to where you are, but where you're going to. If you have that mindset that, okay, this is what I want to do with my life, this is where I'm going to. I am a global talent. It's not just by mouth. It's not by mouth. It's about your mindset. So you have to like set your mind to it. And it's not about you sitting down and saying, oh, I'm going to be a global talent. I'm not doing anything about it. You have to work. You have to work towards it. You have to do it and believe that you're going to do that. You have to work towards it. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. Those are great. Those are great points, Victoria. That you sound like a real good cheerleader for your students and for people you work with, because so much of it is mindset. I used to kind of I used to kind of make fun of mindset, but I really do think it makes a difference when you think about yourself as a global voice actor. So I totally agree with you.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you. Okay. I thought questions already coming in. It's just okay. All right. So the second question is in the voiceover industry, what are the limitations of having just a dish? For example, if I decide to just, stick to commercials, or I say, okay, because I am an actor and I just want to do, I just want to do radio voice. I don't want to, or I just want to, I just want to do what's it called? I've lost my train of thought. But you get
Like
what I'm saying.
audiobooks or animation
Yeah,
or yeah.
I just want to focus on audiobook. I don't want to do any other thing. So what's the limitation? What am I limiting myself to?
Yeah. I mean, when you, there's like positives and negatives to niching down or finding a niche, however you pronounce that word. The
Mhm.
positives of finding a niche is that you can be seen as the go-to person within that niche. I think that's especially true as you start to discover what you have to bring to the marketplace. You discover where, your voice best sits in the marketplace. But at the very beginning of your career, as you're pushing yourself into voiceover, I'd say it only helps to be open to any and all genres of voiceover and any and all read styles, because not only are there differences in terms of the actual genres themselves, but also the read styles, also the language, the accent, all of those things that go into it. So when you're starting, when you're first starting, especially in the early days, try different things, practice different types of scripts, watch different movies or media, animation, listen to audiobooks, think about those areas and then practice those things and figure out what feels right to you, what resonates well with you, what feels like a path that you would enjoy working on. And then when you're going out there and auditioning or marketing yourself to those potential clients, then you can figure out as time goes on, what are the types of projects I'm actually booking? And that can kind of be a good barometer, a good a reading to tell you, okay, my voice fits within this niche really well. And once you start to get those indicators, that's where I feel like you should really double down in those niches. You should really consider yourself, okay, that is where buyers see my voice landing really well. Let's double down on that. Let's reach out to clients who are in that genre, who produce that type of work. So that to me, it's and a niche is good and bad. So in the beginning, I think you need to be open to all things. Don't niche yourself. Don't limit yourself too much. But don't be afraid to immediately double down on something that starts to work for you.
Okay, so you're saying that as a beginner voice actor, you should try various niches, various genres, and later you can deep, you can just focus on one. So you're
Yeah,
saying it's okay.
if you're booking projects in a specific, if you start to book you start to get hired for specific jobs in a certain read style that you're doing, then that is the marketplace. That's the kind of the world, the business, the voiceover world telling you, okay, that is an area where maybe your voice works really well in. So let's focus on that area, including continuing to explore those other areas, but maybe we should point some direction in that area.
Okay, so I should focus my attention on that area, but I should still work on myself for the others in case another opportunity comes and Okay, okay. All
Yeah,
right,
of course.
all right.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much for
yeah, of course.
that. All right, thank you. Okay, so the third question I'd like to ask is code switching. I would like you to please explain what code switching actually looks like in voiceover. In
Sure.
practical terms and not theoretical, I just want to understand because I hear it a lot, voice actors, experts, they talk about code switching, this and that, code switching. So I really want to understand what code switching actually means and
Can
make
you,
it, please.
I guess, for the audience and just for, because I think it might be a slightly different definition potentially in the US audience, I'm not sure, but can you just quickly define what you mean by code switching within voiceover? I know we've talked about it offline, but I think it would be good to just quickly define what you mean by that in
Um,
this context.
Okay, okay. For example, because I've had this, should I say, thought or perspective that when you are in a different location, for example, I'm a Nigerian and I want to work for a Westerner, for a Western client, is there a need for me to, is there something I need to adjust? Like in my delivery, is there something I need to adjust? Because okay, when location is different, location, I don't know, I feel it matters too. So I'm working for a Nigerian client. I know how I can deliver a particular project, a particular voiceover project, and I'm working with an American voice actor, sorry, an American client. So how do I put it? Am I to switch the way I deliver this particular, the way I deliver for this particular project with this Nigerian? Am I meant to switch the way I deliver to the Westerner? Is that clear?
That is clear. So,
Okay.
you know, this is a classic. I feel like it's not a cop out, but it really is true. Is that it depends. It depends on who the end client is and where their target audience is. Because I will say that, let's say I mean, you are Nigerian, but let's say in this hypothetical example that you're Nigerian and you're working with a studio or an agency or something in a Western market, let's say in the US, just because that's where I am. If they're doing an advertisement for the US market and they're targeting, American, English speaking market, I think yes, then you would need to adjust your read style likely, depending on, again, what the script is, what they're calling for. You'd need to adjust it for that. However, in modern advertising and in the marketplace now, authenticity is becoming more and more important, especially as AI evolves, as companies are trying AI and getting a lot of backlash from their global audience, from their customer base. So companies want authenticity. They want authentic voices. And so I think that there is absolutely a place where you may work with someone in a Western market, but maybe they want an authentic Nigerian sound, an authentic accent of some kind, especially if they're working like in the animation world or something like that, where they're wanting authentic voices. Um, so, we all as voice actors, no matter what, are going to have to find, what's authentic, what's the authentic read for us, how do we get that out of ourselves within our own marketplace. And then, if we're trying to break into other markets with different accents or potentially different language, of course, but with different accents, you may need to, adjust your accent. But there, you can still have authenticity in that read. It's acting. At the end of the day, what we're doing is acting. And so if you're still bringing your authentic perspective and your authentic emotions to the script, that's really what matters more than anything else. And I think that, voiceover buyers can hear that in what you are bringing to the plate. So uh, that's, I guess, I think that's mostly my answer to that. I don't know. Does that make sense to you?
I think it does. From what you're saying, so you're saying authenticity over accent.
Correct.
Oh.
Yes, but accent still will play a role if, depending again on the market. Um, it depends on the audience. You know, it depends on who they're trying to target in that advertisement and what the company is, what the brand is. If we're thinking, I'm mostly speaking in commercial terms like TV and radio advertisements, but if that market is, you know, based in a specific area and they're wanting to, you know, a different, you know, an accent for that area, then yeah, you'll need to adjust your accent. I mean, even within the United States, I mean, we have accents. We have a very large geographical um, country, and so within each pocket of this country, there are so many varying accents. And I'm sure you have a very similar experience where you're from, Victoria.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have to also be able to adjust. Even within the United States, they may say, well, we're targeting the southern United States in Texas, let's say. And so we want our read style to have a little bit more of a southern US drawl, as they call it. And so you might need to be able to deliver that. And if you can't, then okay, we don't push for that kind of project. So, you know, it's there's authenticity in your read, but again, at the end of the day, they may need a different type of accent potentially. But I want people to understand that it's acting, and it is finding that real, genuine emotion in your read style. So that should be your goal number one. And then trying to adjust your accent, trying to adjust those things. To me, those are technical things that you can work on. But really right now, especially if you're early on in your career, focus on that genuine emotional delivery.
So if you're new in the industry, you don't have to force it.
Yeah, I
That's
wouldn't force it. Focus on acting. Focus on just finding that genuine voice. Yes, absolutely.
okay. Okay. I see George Flowers joining us. Thank you very much for joining, George Flowers. I'm trying to, if you've been hired to voice a project, I'm trying to understand is it a
I think
question?
maybe he maybe accidentally clicked
Maybe.
enter too quickly. I don't, maybe he didn't finish his
Okay.
comment.
Maybe he'll get back to us later. Thank you for joining, Miriam. Yeah. Odedino says focus on your genuine voice. Don't try to sound I am Victoria like Indian. Just be you. Yeah, so the next question from a client's point of view this time. What matters more and why?
So you're saying what matters in general, what
More
matters to clients?
generally. What matters more to clients?
Okay,
More.
is
Something
more
voiceover.
than something specific or just what matters the
Okay.
most to them? Like what is the
The,
most
the,
important?
the, is it the sound? Is it the performance? You know, is it
Okay,
the
yeah. So I think there's two ways to look at this. I think there's like the actual like art of what we do. So the actual performance is on one hand is what we're delivering. And then on the other hand, we're delivering as service providers. And so clients
sorry, what
want,
I didn't get that.
oh, go ahead.
What I didn't get that. You said we are delivering.
Oh, so what I'm saying is
Okay.
I look at this in two different kind of silos, two different baskets of like what is most important to clients. There's
Okay.
the performance side. So they
Okay.
want, you know, they want the authentic read. They want top quality audio. They want, you know, consistency from read to read. They want, you know, they want you to really match what they need. That's the performance side. On the service side, they want someone who's reliable. They want someone who is excited to work with them. They want someone who's easy to work with, someone who understands their workflow so it makes their job easier. So then if you make their job easier, if you can deliver both a performance and good service, then you're increasing your chances of them to come back to you again and again for future projects. So I like to look at that in two different ways. I think the performance side and then the actual being a service provider, because at the end of the day, we are offering a service to clients. We're service providers. We're freelancers. We're business owners. And so we're trying to provide a good service to our clients. So if it's really easy and simple and stress free and carefree for the client, yeah, they're going to come back to you. You know, they're going to likely come back to you again if they have a project that calls for your kind of voice again.
Very true, very true, very true. So trust over performance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would be over performance, but I would say it's just an equal thing.
Okay,
I
so it's
think
balanced.
I think the expectation is performance, and I think that should be that's like the
The
product that
number
you offer
one.
at the end of the day. Um, but service will be what makes you stand out. Well, obviously your performance is, you know, what you're delivering in the at the end of the day, but that's kind of an expectation for clients at this time in, you know, in the voiceover marketplace. They expect voice actors to deliver what they need. They expect them to be able to have consistent revisions from one session to the next if they need something to be fixed. Those are all kind of baseline expectations now. And so now it's the service side of things is how you separate yourself, is how you show up and be someone that develops a good relationship with them, because we're all, you know, my longest I have clients that I've worked with literally since when I first started in 2012, and so much of that is, you know, am I the best voice actor in the world? No, probably not, but I have developed a really strong, trusting relationship with them. I deliver every time. I deliver on time. You know, that's what really matters. They want people they can trust, people they know. So, you know, get the skills, get all of those things. Of course, those are kind of the baseline things. But then when you can actually develop really good, solid, strong relationships with clients, that's when they'll come back to you again and again.
So it's beyond my performance. Because that's
Yeah,
actually true.
exactly.
You made mention of something. You said you asked yourself if you're the best voice actor, you know, in America, in the world, which is actually very true. We have
Yeah,
millions, zillions of talent, but
exactly. Yeah,
when you're able to form that relationship with your client, they will always come back. I've most gigs I've gotten are not even from new clients. They are basically from, oh Victoria, I referred you to someone, they will get back to you. I referred you, I liked the work you did the other time. Can I do something similar? Like, and like
yeah,
that, we even go beyond voiceover. Sometimes would, because I'm into hosting, I host events too, and I'm an actor as well. So just like that, you just find yourself entering different, you know, things, you know, different and industry and all of that that you are good at. And that's quite interesting. I didn't know that in my early days of being a voice actor. I just felt like I was just going to perform as long as my voice is the best.
right,
I have a good
right. I
voice.
mean, yeah, and here's the thing, there is no agreed upon best voice actor in the world. Even the best voice actors, quote unquote, you know, globally, that we see as the most successful, let's say, even they're rejected constantly. Even they're, you know, dealing with other voices being a better fit for whatever the market is, for whatever the project is. So, you know, focus on your work. Don't let other things kind of get in your head. Just focus on delivering good work, and focus on developing good relationships, because that's gonna sustain a business long term. That's how I've been able to continue to do this full time for as long as I have, because I want to develop those long term relationships. And if you don't, if you kind of think like I'm just going to come in, do my thing, and disappear and not talk to them again, well, that's kind of going to be how they treat you too. So, you know,
Okay,
it's
so
a give and take.
that brought a question in now. So what if I'm not the kind of person that likes talking to people? Like I just want to work. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to people. Not me. Like I'm just saying. Like I'm just acting
If you're
as
someone like that.
someone. Yes. So how do I deal with it? How do I don't like, what if I don't like chatting with people? I just want to work. I just want money. And how do I deal with that? I'm sorry, that just
Well,
came to my mind when, because of this, you know, conversation
yeah.
last.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I will say that you're going to have to work with people, so you can't avoid it.
You can't
Um,
do it.
you can't avoid it, but I'll say that, you don't need to hop on calls with people all the time. You don't need to do cold calling necessarily. Calling up random businesses and saying, "Hey, I'm
I
Victoria
saw
and I, XYZ." But
Jordan that.
you can easily develop relationships via email or via WhatsApp or whatever their preferred communication is. To me, developing relationships is just like asking questions, showing genuine interest in the other person. You don't need to have this long conversation or be this gregarious person who loves to socialize. But maybe when you're sending an email to someone, if it's after a project is over or whatever, maybe you just ask a quick question like, "Hey, how's the year been so far?" Ask just those basic questions to kind of have the client pull out a little bit of their life. And then maybe you share a little bit about your life too, because there's a give and take there again. We want to work with other human beings. And so how do you get to know anyone in your life? Show interest and share about yourself. And, if you're introverted or if you're someone who doesn't like to talk to people, yeah, I mean, that is a challenge, definitely. But you don't have to be, it's just funny. It's kind of the irony because in this industry, because we are drawn, one of the reasons some people are drawn into it is because it's kind of an isolated thing where it's like, I get to
Yes.
be in my recording space. I don't have to talk to anyone. I don't have a boss breathing down my neck. All of those things that are really appealing for it, but you still need to develop relationships with people that you're working with. So it's a balance. I can't say that you don't have to socialize. You don't have to do any of that, but you don't have to be an extremely extroverted social person to have success in this. Most of the voice actors I come into contact with and I talk to are introverted, are people that don't like to put themselves out there too much. So don't see that as a barrier to making this work.
See that as a barrier. Okay, if you're listening, if you're watching, form a relationship. All right. So the last question. Voices are often expressive and musical. How can we translate those strengths into styles that clients respond to?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think almost every read style that exists, I, I shouldn't say that too blanket statement because I don't know every read style, but for
Okay.
most read styles, for most genres, musicality, having a musical ear can be extremely valuable, especially if you are able to. Well, so let's talk about the U.S. market again, because that's what I'm most familiar with, and the Western market. In a lot of commercial work, a lot of in TV and radio commercials, the copy is written, whether it's intentional or unintentional, oftentimes has a rhythm to it. It has natural musicality in it without realizing it. Maybe the copywriter is doing it intentionally. Oftentimes they are, but sometimes it's just that's what feels good as human beings. We like things that have kind of a rhythm to it, has a musicality to it. And so using your musicality, using your musical ear can be a really good way to put emphasis on specific words, to speed up one small section of a script and then slow down the next section and then feeling that rhythm. And then maybe here on this part, we're going to be a little higher. And then down here, we're going to go down, and talk closer and lower, whatever that may be. That musicality can absolutely be a superpower because I feel like musicality exists in all genres, even within something that feels less musical in, let's say, like a training video or maybe some corporate narration where maybe it's a little bit more dry, it's a little bit more boring, quote unquote. That even in itself has a rhythm and a music to it. And I wanted to say something that popped in my mind is that when you're auditioning for projects, kind of at a nuts and bolts level here, at a more granular level, when you're auditioning for projects, if you feel a natural rhythm in a script, sometimes the way to stand out when you're auditioning for that script is to go against the natural rhythm of the script. So if you feel a natural musicality in the script, if it feels like, oh, I should read it like this, try to move against that, because then your audition will stand out. And maybe the client will end up doing kind of the more traditional read in the end. But when we're auditioning, we're trying to stand out. And so face it like you think someone would want it to be read. Think about it the way you'd want someone to have it be read, and then maybe work against that to make your audition stand out.
So it's not about. I don't know who's. I think it was T Code that mentioned something about that's he was talking about. I don't know if you know T Code. T Code is a Nigerian voice actor as well. So he
Sounds
was
somewhat
talking.
familiar, yeah.
Oh, okay, fantastic. So he was talking about how beginner voice actors don't get enough gigs because of casting directors and all of that. So then he made mention of when you have a script with you, you should not voice that script the way it's in your head. I don't know how to put it better than this. You don't have to read the script the way it is in your head. You have to maybe have someone who is also listening that can feel, because it's actually good as a voice actor to have a good listening ear, but at the same time you need someone to listen to that voice to help you judge if it aligns, or sometimes have, I think I've never done it before. There's this thing they call oh my god, I've forgotten what it's called when you voice a script while you have a client with you. I don't know.
Oh, a remote session or a directed session?
Yeah, something like that. And have the clients listen to you so they can correct you on spot. Something like that. So you
Yeah.
don't have like have many takes and the client is saying, this is not what I actually want. I actually want this energy, I actually want this and all of that. So don't just read a script given to you based on how you feel at that particular moment. Because there are sometimes that even to us naturally, to we voice talent, sometimes we just hold that script, and today we might read it a different way and tomorrow it gives another vibe. So
Yeah.
yeah, right,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think part of what you're uh, alluding to or referencing is coaching, to be honest with you. Having a separate set of ears, like you said, listen to the way you're interpreting scripts, because you can quickly find yourself, especially if you're doing a lot of auditions day after day, or you're if you're not getting a lot of feedback, oftentimes you can kind of fall into common rhythms and patterns in how you're delivering scripts. Now, sometimes that can be the right pattern, it can be the right way to read it. But if you're always ending, sentences with three, let's say it's a phrase and it's listing three different items, and that's usually how things are listed, with like three different items. Well, if every single time you're reading three different things where, like, the first thing is at this level, the second thing is the first thing is at this frequency, like this tone of voice, the second one goes higher, like here, and the third one goes a little bit lower down here. If you do that every single time, you're likely not actually delivering the way it needs to be read. And so you need to hear those patterns in yourself. And coaching can be a really good way to get a second perspective on kind of those judgment calls that you're making, those instincts that you're going with as a voice actor. When you're making those decisions, it's often very helpful to have just another set of ears hearing you and saying, oh, you know what? I noticed that every time this comes up, that's how you read it. We need to break that cycle and try it a different way. Give it a different musicality, give it a different tonality, a different speed, however the adjustment's made. So I think that you're 100% spot on, having the importance of having someone else listen to you perform. You could even just have a friend listen to you and they may not be an expert in voiceover, so I wouldn't, do this
About
too much.
okay.
Um, but because you can develop bad habits, but it can be helpful to just have someone else hear you and be like, oh, I feel like there's not enough energy there, or I feel like that's not happy enough. Just to kind of get used to that and to get direct feedback. But nothing replaces working with a good coach, someone who understands the industry, who can give you good, objective feedback for what you're doing.
Mm, okay. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Whew. That's the end of the Q&A session from my end. I have some questions. I think it's just one. Okay. I'm trying to. I saw one. Okay, from Anna. Anna the Beloved. Okay. She said, I wanted to ask if there have been times in voiceover work when someone kept their natural accent for a foreign market. I'm trying to get that. I wanted to ask if there have been times in voiceover work when someone kept their natural accent for a foreign market. Is a real original accent accepted instead of changing it? Okay, is a real original accent accepted, sometimes accepted instead of changing it? Did you get that question?
Yes, I see it here. Yes, I mean, there are definitely times when it's accepted. I mean, I will say that I let me give you like an anecdotal a story in my own life, but I have some talent agents in the U.S. and relatively frequently, I will see my agent, one of my agents, posting on social media on Facebook, let's say, saying, hey, we're actually looking for this very specific language or accent or whatever it may be, someone from this very specific country with this capability. And so that tells me that there is a need for people with authentic voices that maybe aren't, he's a US based talent agent, but clearly he has clients who are needing a voice that has that authentic accent from wherever they are, from somewhere that isn't US based, isn't Western based. That's, completely outside of what you'd expect, quote unquote. So absolutely. I mean, it's just a matter of, to me, it's a challenge, as someone, let's say if you're based in Nigeria and you're reaching out to American companies, or Western companies, or wherever they are, somewhere not in Nigeria, um, you won't know what they potentially work on until you are communicating with them. So you don't know what you don't know. So to me, you'd never know when a project might actually call for your specific authentic accent. So I think it's in your best interest to put yourself out there. I mean, I know it's a daunting thing and it's not fun often to market yourself or to, reach out to people that you've never met before, but you never know where that your voice might fit exactly what they need. And then it's like, boom, you become like the go-to person anytime anything like that is needed, because it's so unique in whatever that other marketplace is. Um, I hope that answers your question. So yes, the answer is yes. You absolutely can book work in other markets with your authentic voice. It's just a matter of finding that match. Is it as frequent? No, but it's definitely possible, and I've seen it happen. So, um, good luck to you, Anna. That's a great question.
Good luck to you. All right. This is a question from George Flowers. To John, what percentage of auditions do you book?
That's a great question, George. I wish I could give you like a really specific number. Um, I will say that throughout my career, just on like a more global level, throughout my career, my goal as a voice actor, and this might go against the grain for a lot of voice actors, my goal has been to audition as infrequently as I can to get the biggest return that I can, because I don't want to rely on something that I can't totally control other than the number of auditions that I do. And so much of my business throughout all of these years has been, how do I not only increase my booking ratio on auditions, but how do I skip the audition process? Or if I have to audition, how do I audition against 5 people, 10 people, etc.? Because to me, that's upping my chances dramatically. Because if I'm just auditioning for projects that are on a pay-to-play voiceover marketplace like Voice123 or Voices.com, I'm not sure if your audience is familiar with that, Victoria, but any kind of online marketplace or on, I don't know, a giant casting call from a project that there's going to be hundreds, thousands of auditions on, I'm definitely willing to audition for the right fit. But my goal is to limit those auditions, because what I want to do is develop relationships with people where they come to me, either come to me with an immediate booking, or, hey, John, we're sending our client 5 to 10 voices. Can you send us an audition for this project? And then we'll go from there. So to be honest with you, I don't really keep track of my audition percentage, because that's the way I've focused my business. I know a lot of people really keep close track on like pay to play websites. I dabbled in Voice123 actually kind of as an experiment this past year. But it didn't fit within my workflow. It's just not part of what I do. So I actually just canceled my subscription to that. So I wish I could give you a very specific answer. I would say if I had to answer you like specifically, it's probably a pretty standard booking ratio. But yeah, I don't have a specific number on that. I probably should, but to me, I'm focusing much more on my outbound marketing, my hit rate on those things. So then those projects can come to me and I don't have to deal with the audition landscape as heavily in my day-to-day workflow.
Okay. So I guess he has answered your question, George. So Anna the Beloved is asking another question. How do you sustain a consistent voice while voicing an audiobook? Because at times, the moment we leave what we are doing at the moment, we may be unable to maintain that voice and pace. Yeah, that's very true. So yeah, how do you sustain a consistent voice while voicing an audiobook?
Yeah, so that's something you're going to develop over time. I think what you have to do is be very intentional about how you're reading something like that. Now, up front, I don't do a lot of audiobook work. I haven't pushed into that. I've there's a big part of me that just doesn't have the attention span at times for an audiobook. I know you talked about attention span earlier.
Yeah.
So it's not my preferred route, but I'll say I've done a lot of like long form projects where I have to work on it one day, leave it, come back the next day, leave it, come back the next day. So that consistency in your voice, I think, has to come from practice, to be honest with you. It's also important that if you're doing something, if you're doing a read style where you can't maintain it, there might be something wrong with that read style. You could be hurting your voice potentially. You could be doing something that maybe is a little bit outside of your comfort zone, that is hard for you to come back to. And I think that if you're running into that, then either it's going to take more practice for you to maintain that read style, or maybe you need to find a read style that fits more within the zone of your voice. And then I'll say, from a more like tactical perspective, if you're trying to get a consistent read from like one session to the next, in terms of the actual performance of it, what I like to do is find like a home base phrase or sentence or paragraph that to me feels like it allows me to kind of jump right back into that script, right back into the zone of that story or that narration or whatever I'm working on. That's kind of like my home base phrase or paragraph, like I said. So then next time you go back to it, okay, let's read my home base phrase that allows me to kind of find that voice. Then from there, let's go back to where we were in the story or back to where we were in the project. So it's finding, you have to find what works for you, but that's something that's worked really well for me is just finding those phrases that kind of get me back, where a lot of my muscle memory and that kind of memory can take over.
Okay, 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 okay. All right, all right. Thank you so, so much. I promised you 30 minutes and now it's almost an hour. I'm sorry. It comes like that sometimes. Thank you so much for. Oh, we have another question from. Sorry, we're not done yet. We have after this. I'm sorry, maybe in the comment section, or you're going to be, there's. I was meant to join through the community's Instagram, but I don't know what is wrong with the other Instagram. But if you would like to ask more questions, you can join the community's WhatsApp group. We have a WhatsApp community that you can join. Then you can ask as many questions as possible. I'm sure John is ready to answer. All right. So, so this is going to be the last question from Capture Easy 228. What do you do as a beginner voiceover artist that don't get gigs often, even though you are on different P2P platforms and you have demo on
Your
it?
demo on it. That's a good question. The way I would respond to that is keep auditioning. If you have, you know, if you have a subscription on there, you're paying for it. I would try to maximize your exposure on there. Definitely, every pay to play platform is different. I think the general advice I would give you for those platforms specifically is to be very particular about what you're auditioning for. So make sure it really fits within your strength and read style. Otherwise, the algorithm and the way they rank you and however it goes in those can negatively affect you. So that's why you need to be very particular about it. But from a general sense in the voiceover community, um, as a voice actor, I think your efforts should be also spent on putting yourself in front of voiceover decision makers, in front of voiceover buyers. So reaching out, doing emailing with a company that's near you or in your market that potentially could use voiceover. Connect with them on Instagram. Comment on their work on Instagram. Send them cold emails. Follow up on those things. Those are the kinds of actions that, while they're slower moving, you don't get as a quick of an immediate, you know, I booked a job, so I'm getting dollars right here. Those are the kinds of long-term moves you should make that will pay off long term. Those are the things that those are kind of like, it's kind of like growing your own food, having a farm, eating fresh, delicious food, and then that'll sustain you all day and sustain you for months, years, etc. Or eating fast food. Fast food's great, tastes great, but it's very fleeting. It's not great for you. It's not very good for you. And it's not long lasting. So that's why I say, definitely keep auditioning, keep going out there, keep putting yourself out there, but be particular about it, but also spend a lot of your time trying to develop relationships, and sending your demos and getting people in front of you.
Yeah, that's when I started my voiceover journey. I started with just my WhatsApp status. I was just posting on my stories. I was just creating content. I would tell my families, my friends, anyone who didn't even care rather about about my voiceover work. I told everybody, and you build relationships. You tell people your first gig might even come from a very close relative. So if you call yourself a voice actor, but people don't know you're a voice actor. I have a lot of people, a lot of friends who would come to my DM and tell me, "Oh, Victoria, it is actually because of you that I knew what voiceover is. I never knew there was something called voiceovers and all of that." So
Yeah.
please, I'm begging
Yeah.
you.
I mean,
Right.
no
Okay.
one knows, no one is going to know about you. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you really like kind of inspired me to say something there. No one knows, no one's going to know about you. No one's going to know about what you do. No one's going to know about your service without you actually putting yourself out there. No one's going to do it
Mm,
for you. It's going to be coming, it's up to you. And that's why someone like Victoria is so inspiring, because she puts herself out there. She creates content. She makes it clear, like, this is what I do. This is what I'm bringing to the voiceover world, and it's it's putting you on the map. You know, it's putting you top of mind for people discovering. And another thing to think about, if let's say it's a small business that hires you for voiceover. Well, like Victoria, to Victoria's point, someone she knew didn't know what voiceover was or wasn't even really familiar with it. Well, if it's a company and they advertise or they do XYZ, they may not realize that you could actually hire someone to do this. It's not that frequent that that happens, but it can happen.
yes.
And the way they figured out that voiceover exists is that you told them, you were clear about it, you posted about it on socials, etc. So
Yes, that's I shove it in people's throats. You have to know that I do voiceovers. You have to know by fire by force, and you have to know. And another thing is, another way I tell people I do voiceovers is I educate people. I try to make them understand. I try to break it down. Try to, to their level. I don't mean level like I mean to their level of not understanding what voiceover is, because it's normal. Even when before I started voiceovers, I never knew there was something called voiceovers. So I saw it as something that is very okay, that it's not a crime not to know what voiceover is. So you can create a lot of content around it and all that. I'm trying to rush because I've spent
yeah.
more than an hour now. So please, if you have any question, do well to join the community on WhatsApp. The link is in the communities page bio. So please do well to join, and John is ready to answer your question. Thank you so much, John, for agreeing to we can do this some other time, I can call you again, and so
Yeah,
thank
I'd
you
be
so.
happy to.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you. Okay, do you have any question? Do you have anything you want to say?
yeah. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone, and everyone has been so welcoming in Victoria's community. So I definitely encourage you, if you're a voice actor, or you're connected somehow and you're interested in voiceover and just connecting with Victoria and other people in the community. I totally encourage you to do that. I think it's great, and that's something I've learned over the years. And it's every year it feels like it's just elevated even more, is how supportive people in the voiceover community are, because this is a hard job. It is not easy. It is very isolating. You get rejected all the time. So it can feel very bad. And so having a supportive having a supportive community from all walks of life, from all parts of the world, from all countries, it makes a huge difference. It really does. And so, if you're feeling bad or you're feeling like is this really going to happen, like, lean on your community. So I really appreciate that from Victoria. And if you want to connect more with me, I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. So if you go to LinkedIn, and I will say, it's just as a suggestion, LinkedIn is where a lot of voiceover buyers are. So if you're trying to get yourself in front of potential voiceover buyers, especially in the Western market, LinkedIn is definitely a place to be. So just a little insight there. But if you want to connect with me, that is definitely the best place to go. If you want to learn about, I have kind of a mentorship website where I help people with voiceover, getting into voiceover and that kind of stuff. That's kind of like a side project. That's also where my website design work is. If you go to fulltimevoicetalent.com, that's where that is, fulltimevoicetalent.com. Otherwise, my personal voiceover website, where you can listen to my demos and see some of my work, is voiceovergenie.com. So that's voiceovergenie.com. So I appreciate your time again, Victoria. I had a really nice time here chatting with you, and let's definitely do it again.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining me. Okay, George Flowers says every rejection gets you one step closer to succeeding. I think we're just going to end that with that.
That is
All right.
exactly right, George. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, George. That's our grandpappy in the community, by the way. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, John, once again. And we'll update you on what's coming next.